last night, what do I gain? Crappy division opponent, playing with a lead. Akeem Hicks is out, so they're not going to have much of a pass rush. You're going up against Trubisky. It's not that they're not gifted. It's not that I don't like them. But to me, there's a certain sensibility to the Packers where there's about 3 games a year. They're going to go 13-3. If you look at their schedule, they're going to go 13-3. Now, the good news is many of the teams they play, the toughest matchups for them are mostly AFC teams. They do not match with the Steelers. They don't match with the Steelers' physical play. They do not match up with Tennessee. I do not think they'd match up with the Baltimore. The good news for the Packers is some of the teams in the NFC they play are not always that physical. So that's the good news. But I watched last night, and my takeaway was, what do I get out of this? I know they're going to win. They're playing with a lead. It's a crappy team. And I looked at their schedule this morning, and I'm like, they're going to go 13-3. They'll probably finish 1 or 2. They're going to get home games in the playoffs. If they have to go on the road, I don't trust them against a physical team. But again, if they play New Orleans, Green Bay goes over the top. Well, New Orleans doesn't, so they'll be in that game. They could very well get to a Super Bowl, but God, I don't like them. If they had to play a Tennessee or they had to play a Pittsburgh or teams that can run the football.
What about Kansas City?
I think they match up better against Kansas City than Pittsburgh. But again, I watched them against the Colts last week. They can't get off the field. Even last night, I'll be honest with you, Chicago moved the ball. The Bears moved the ball. They just had turnovers. They moved the ball. They didn't have a problem. And Chicago's anemic offensively. Trent Dilfer around the corner, hour 3 on a Monday. Live in L.A., it's The Herd.
Herd on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
I can see Nick Wright right now watching that rant.
I was on the phone with him. And the minute Mike Evans caught that from Brady, Nick's like, I got to go. That's exactly what he hung up on me. He goes, and his TV, because he's on the East Coast in New York, his TV is 6 seconds ahead of me. So Brady walking up to the line, Nick goes, on! I'm like, what? Oh, I got to go.
It's hard to watch games with anyone who is like a little bit ahead or behind you.
Yes.
It's like, let's just text. So the Packers made it look easy last night. It was pretty much unwatchable by the third quarter.
Chicago games are really increasing. I know it's a big market. Their games are tough to watch.
Well, they win ugly, and they lose ugly. They lose ugly, too. 41-25, Packers beat the Bears last night. Aaron Rodgers threw for 211 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also became the 11th player to reach 50,000 career passing yards and hit that mark with the second fewest attempts in NFL history, so still brilliant. Green Bay's defense also had a big game, forcing 3 turnovers from Trubisky, who is making his first start since week 3 and suffered his first loss of the season.
Nicest bad quarterback ever. He's such a wonderful kid. You can tell the players like him. When I watch him,
everybody likes him. Even Tony Dungy could not bring himself to be critical of him.
I mean, I just think Mitch Trubisky's one of those guys that you would love as a friend. He would drive you to the airport, even if he was sick and down in the dumps. But I didn't get it when he came out. I don't get it now, and it just they got to reboot the quarterback situation in Chicago, or else it's going to be this against Green Bay for the next 3 years.
We definitely need more nice people in the world.
Yes,
there's nothing wrong with being nice, but
I'll take a little less nice at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you could just be 10% less nice, and we'll deal with it for, an upgrade in that position. I just feel bad for Chicago fans, and I've felt like this for the past couple of years with Chicago, which is why I think it's so strange that they're consistently in this predicament at the quarterback position. Not that it's easy to find a quarterback, but I mean, we all know who they passed up on.
Well,
so my thing is, like, you have a defense that is capable, right?
You know what they did? That Jay Cutler had a great arm, but was incredibly difficult.
Right.
And then they go interview Mitch Trubisky, and they don't like the arm, but he's such a nice guy.
You overcorrect.
So they overcorrected. So the word on what Chicago did is that Cutler was so poisonous in the locker room and so difficult. They didn't like the guy, but they loved his talent. And then they went and interviewed Trubisky, and they didn't love his talent, but they loved the guy. And they thought, you know what? He's everything Jay's not. Everybody will love him. He's athletic. His arm isn't great. The throwing motion, the mechanics are awful, but they overcorrected. It's like we've all done this before. You date somebody and they're super nice, but you can walk all over them. So then you want to date somebody that you can't walk over, and after about a year, you're like, I miss walking over somebody because now this person's driving me nuts. Trubisky's the opposite of Cutler, and the truth is the answer is somewhere in the middle.
As with most things in life.
That's right.
And look, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's easy to find the perfect franchise quarterback. It's not, obviously. Every team goes through patches of this, and that's understandable. My thing is, you can't fool the locker room, right? Like, it's fine to be a great person, and that's actually a nice thing to do. But at the end of the day, players want to win. So if Jay Cutler was a horrible person and was winning, everyone would overlook it. The problem is that generally doesn't happen. Like, you don't have a lot of stories of great leaders who are half the locker room hates. That's not how it works. So again, like we always talk about, just find some balance in life.
Right.
And don't disregard the actual tangibles of a real good player. So the Patriots keep their playoff hopes alive, miraculously, with a big win over the Cardinals. Cam Newton struggled all day, but 2 rushing touchdowns from James White and a game-winning field goal from Nick Folk were enough to win 2017. The Patriots defense was solid, limiting Arizona's offense to just 298 yards, and it was their second lowest of the season, and Kyler Murray did not have a passing touchdown for the first time this year.
Well, again, let's be fair now. So what is Belichick known for? What is Belichick the best in the NFL at?
Defense.
Well, not only that, he is Einstein against young quarterbacks.
Well,
Josh Allen's been terrible. Darnold's been horrible. So Kyler Murray's like, okay, he doesn't get to see him in a division. He's never seen Belichick's defense. And Belichick, all these young quarterbacks, this is one of these.
Yeah, his record against young quarterbacks is staggering.
It's like 31-3. And so Kyler never seen Belichick. He has no idea what he's going to get defensively. And Cliff Kingsbury's a college coach, just became an NFL coach. So when I watch that game, I'm like, it's one of those you should have betted after the fact. I'm like, of course Kyler Murray's struggling because Josh Allen struggles and Kyler struggles. All Baker struggled against him. All young quarterbacks struggle.
But just experience.
Yep.
Cardinals are now 6-5. So if you look at the AFC playoff picture, though, we're talking about the Patriots still being in the mix. They're at 5-6, Raiders 6-5, and the Ravens are 6-4. So they are still technically in the hunt in the playoffs. They have the Chargers, Rams, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets left. So
how is New England in the hunt? This is an unbelievable coaching job. It really is. They have no playmakers.
It is, and consider Cam Newton being out for COVID as well, and the struggles that they had when he came back. But the rest of their season is really interesting, though. At the Chargers, at the Rams. The Rams are the most inconsistent good team in the league. The Dolphins, Bills, and Jets.
Oh, by the way, so Belichick faces another young quarterback next week, Justin Herbert. What's the line on that game? Take the Patriots against Justin Herbert. This is the classic. Herbert's never faced Belichick.
Then they have at the Rams. Then they're at the Dolphins, which is another young quarterback.
They'll lose those two.
Still another young quarterback in Tua. They usually don't play well in that late game in December in Miami. They usually struggle, even with, that was notorious. Tom Brady's not there now, but still. Finally, some news that I thought you were the first person that I thought of when I saw this news. The Lions have fired head coach Matt Patricia and GM Bob Quinn.
Yeah.
The move comes after the Lions fell to 4-7 after a 41-25 blowout loss to the Texans on Thanksgiving for the whole world to watch. Patricia was in his third season as Detroit's head coach, and at a 13-29-1 record with the team, the Lions finished last in the NFC North in 2018 and 2019, and the seasons under him. And Bob Quinn had been the team's GM since 2016.
So as of yesterday, now the Jags fired their GM this morning, but as of yesterday, 4 of the 5 people fired in the NFL, coach or GM, were tied to Belichick. Proximity to brilliance does not equal. You could stand next to Einstein your entire life. It doesn't make you smart. All these New England people that come out.
It's really, I have a theory on this, though.
You do too? Because
we talk a lot about how successful or how much more successful the Andy Reid coaching tree has been from Belichick. And I think it's because while Belichick is a genius, we all know his personality at this point.
Yeah.
Andy Reid is the opposite personality of Bill Belichick.
So is Mike Holmgren.
Great football mind, respected football mind, but he's always described as a teacher.
Yes.
He's not described as a genius, even though he has a brilliant football mind. He's a teacher. And I think that is what leads to a more successful tree. Yeah. Like you're giving more of your thoughts and you're collaborating more. And there's nothing wrong with either way. Obviously, Belichick is most successful, maybe the greatest coach of all time. Well, I mean, that's why I think when you see the people that leave him, they don't have the same success.
Steve Jobs at Apple leaves Apple, Apple tanks. Now you'd think, oh, these guys worked around Steve Jobs. They got his brilliance. Why did Apple go down? You can't share genius. I mean, Steve Jobs left. Now he builds it back up. They give it to Tim Cook. And by the way, he's great. Don't get me wrong. But it'll never be Apple. And that's my thing with Belichick. He's the smartest football coach ever, but his tree's not very.